All right, without further ado, welcome back, guys. Good afternoon or good evening. Yeah, today we are going to do some packaging design. Yeah, so not really packaging design, sort of, but we can. I'm going to teach you guys how to attach images to a file as such that is given by a client, or if you have in the future to do some sort of a packaging assignments that you can do for your projects in for promotion and so on in your school, right? So some images that is given to you guys and shared with you guys, like the boxes, the can, and then there's another, this is a tin, and then you've got another can, and also some images here for you to look at as a reference where you can design your own you know, your own packaging designs for your cans. All right, so some coffee beans, so the images is not too sharp, but that can be vectorized. So you guys are doing your illustration in your Illustrator, you can use that as well and do the designs from there and bring it in, or you can even use in Photoshop to make your own designs, right? So something that is very simple, and how do you want to wrap it nicely? All right, so this is a little bit on addition components that I'm going to add on, right? So previously we have already covered timeline, movie poster, and so that you are still doing your movie posters, but this is something that you can utilize for the future as well, right? And then I will touch on the timeline a little bit and how to do a simple animation for your movie poster. And yeah, without further ado, let's start the packaging first. Okay, so when you are doing, or when you have a picture or photo of a tin, a bare tin as such, or if you have a picture of a tin that is taken with images and all that, so how do you want to place the your own packaging design, which is the stickers that is going across or wrapped across the tin? So how do you want to do that? So normally, uh, as when you start doing when you start dealing with Photoshop, and so what happens is, if there is an image or if there is a simple illustration of the package, and so that you sketch up and done in Illustrator or even in Photoshop, what you'll do is you will drag that image in, and this is what you'll do. You'll try to scale it up, and then you will do this warping, and this is where you will start trying to warp the image around the tin or the object by itself that you're working with, right? So this is something that normally will be done, right? And this is done commonly when this practice is been practiced. What happens is the image, uh, what they call the density and so on, will be distorted. The image will be distorted normally. As you can see, the package design book here will become a little bit off, and this will take a lot of time for you to do a lot of adjustments, which is not bad, can be done. And yeah, it does do the work for you, but there is another way of doing, which is much more in a non-destructive manner, where you can control your design and how it's going to be attached to the package or the object by itself, is by, first, there are options. First is for you to create a rectangle tool. You can use the rectangle tool and create a rectangle around it as a base where the what they call the sticker is going to be placed. Okay, so you can scale this however you want to fit these sides so that it kind of sits there, and bring it approximately to the center. Yeah, just to indicate here the object or the placement of the image is gonna be, or the sticker is gonna be here, right? So once you have done this, what happens is this will work as a guide where you do not need to move too much, but you can place the stickers and replace this image by first changing the rectangle shape that you have already created, right clicking on the layer, and then first to convert it to a smart object. Right, the moment you have it as a smart object without doing any warping and distortion on that particular rectangle, what happens is when you're doing it as a smart object, all you have to do is now double click on it, and then you can paste the image on that layer. So what happens is the smart object will maintain, and you can delete the transformation that you have already applied to it. Right, so we have already done these practices previously. So what we can do now is, in the layer that you're working on, you're going to go Control T or Command T, and then you're going to hit or right click on that rectangle tool and hit warp. All right, so in here there are other options. So you've got other options here where you can change the warp tool here. You can squeeze, you can inflate, you can do your rise and so on. Right, so first and foremost, you want to see how it is going to be arched around. So at this point of time, you can see the angle of the photo is moving downwards, arch type. So how do you do that is by you hitting on the arch. So when the arch is selected, you can now just warp it something like this, and then kind of like make the angle to fit around or warp around the object that you're working with, right? And once you're happy with this, you can go back and you can hit on this tick button here on the top shelf, yeah, so that it is selected as such. I'm going to just move this rectangle approximately to the shape that you'll be working on. And here you can also do your adjustments by hitting on warp again, and this time you can change the warp to custom. Right, other options here, they can change the options to custom, and you can pull this edges to pin it around this edge, right? But you have to be careful with this, right? So every time that you go offset, and this is what will happen, it will tear the image around. So you just have to be careful with that. So once you have already done this, or approximately done the wrapping which suits best the image, all you have to do is make this slightly bigger, enlarge this, and kaboom, it is done. Okay, so once this is wrapping nicely, you have to take your delicate time, yeah, and hit enter. Okay, once this is done, all you have to do is double click on the rectangle tool, and now you can bring in any sort of image, even if it's a coffee. So now if I want to have a coffee here, just to test how it's going to work, I'm going to enlarge this image approximately here and press enter and Control S. Okay, you have to save it first, Control S or Command S. Right, now when you go back to the previous working file where the tin is, you will see it is wrapped nicely. So what happens is it will maintain the image as what it's supposed to be. Am I making sense here? All right, so what happens is it will maintain the image within this rectangle, so the distortion may not happen like crazily, but it will happen in a very even manner. Of course, you've got other components here where you can do a little bit of adjustments, where you want to delete or you want to erase certain areas where the handle is going to be attached to and so on. That will be done with a mask tool. So this one, again, with a mask tool, you can come in, use a brush, use a solid hard round brush, and go in and start erasing the sections that you want it to be erased. Right? You can decrease the size of your brush, slowly draw around the handle. Right? If you have some bleedings that is happening, what you can do is you can switch it, yeah, by pressing X on your keyboard, and then slowly kind of erase those areas that needs to be erased and so. Okay, so once this is done, now you can go back to the opacity, the layer, and kaboom, done. So this is how you want to do, right? So if you were to add more components to this or more information, like for instance you want to have it a different design, so this can be added on by adding a text perhaps, and you can change the text, maybe perhaps a coffee, white coffee from Ipoh, yeah, example, and you can enlarge it how you want it to be enlarged, something like that, boom, and tap it and Control S, and this is where you can see the white coffee from Ipoh well wrapped. All right, so you can see the difference now, yeah, between this technique and between this technique. Okay, so this technique, it's a guessing game, yeah, the previous technique that I showed with the yellow color package. Yeah, if you're using the technique with the smart object, what happens is it becomes evenly distributed and it's much more presentable, and it's wrapped properly as what it's supposed to be, right? Yes, so that's the way of you to do some wrapping if you have a curved object that you're going to work with in the future. Of course, this may not be perfect, and as you can see, if you zoom in or zoom out by holding Alt and then doing a scroll on your mouse, or you can go in here, click on the zoom, you press once, it zooms in with the left mouse button, press with Alt, it zooms out. Okay, so you can zoom in and zoom out. Yeah, you zoom in to be more discreet. What you have to do is go in here, Control T. Okay, has been applied to smart object, but warp not allowed for link object. So what you can do is you can unlink this, right? Make sure you unlink this. Now Control T, right click, warp. You can go in and slowly adjust it accordingly. Okay, in this manner, this is much more a non-destructive method of working with warping and attaching stickers to an object or a photo that is given to you in the future if you're working with clients and so to get things done properly. All right, so if you have something in between here to be distorted or to be to be adjusted accordingly so that it's not moving in this contour, all you have to do is hold Control or hold Alt, add on one warp point here, and you can adjust it by holding on this point where it has two handles and warp it as such. You can even twist it if you want to. So here the options is on yours, depending how do you want to work with the options. Okay, so the wrap tool is to help you to see how much you want to sort the object. It may not be super perfect straight away. If there is some sort of a difference, as you can see the warp tool, if it has a handle like this, if you move the handles across, what happens is it becomes a little bit more liquefied as such. Okay, so we want to maintain the borders, so you have another split here. The split is to help you to enlarge or to have a little control over the center image here if it's a little bit more distorted, or you need it to be a little bit more uh, you know adjusted as it goes in terms of its view and in terms of its placement, right? So once this is done, you press enter and warp tool is now fixed. Okay, so this is how you do a simple warp, right? Okay, so next thing is, if you were to do with a can, or if you have something, an image, some sort like a box, this requires another tool, right? So let's move on to the box. Any questions over this so far? Anyone? Any questions? Super clear? Yeah. Okay. So if there is no questions, let's start with the other ones. All right. So you all totally understand, huh? So you have to convert the rectangle that you have already created, a simple square, as a placement, yeah, placeholder. That's where you will place, okay, approximately. Right. You can always scale it and do the transformation. Yeah. And then double click on that smart object. It will open up in a brand new window. Yeah, and this is where you can bring in the images that you want to bring in and paste it over. You can have your own design and so on, right? So for instance, if you were to do this as for a paint company, yeah, so if you were to do that, this is another way of doing. Okay, so here if you were to start this example, I'm going to go in and do my own design, whereby I can create my own gradient first, right? Create my own new layer, and this is where I will throw in a gradient, right? So here tap on this image, or this three dot in your tool, and then you hold on to it and hit on a gradient tool. You can just create a gradient, something like this, for instance. Yeah, any sort of gradient colors. Okay, I'll come back to that. Yeah, so you do a gradient, and then you can check on the brush, and you all remember how to create your own brush, right? So if let's say you want to create some sort like you know an image of a silhouette of pine trees, for instance. Yeah, so how do you do that? Is by going into Google and just typing in say silhouettes of tree silhouettes. Yeah, so go in, type in tree silhouettes. Yeah, something like this, or something like this. Right click on this, copy image, drag it in, Control V, right? Use the selection tool, and go in, tap once to say this is sufficient for a pine tree. Yeah, I'm going to right click on this and sorry, go to edit and define brush preset, make it as pine. Okay, now you have created your own pine brush. Control D and create a brand new layer. Choose a color, maybe somewhere from here. Just hold Alt so it changes to an eyedropper, and then eyedropper is to pick colors. Tap on the colors, the desired colors, yeah, within the canvas. Maybe make it slightly darker. Okay, and this is where you can start doing this. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. You create your own jungle or forest. Okay, so if you don't like this, that's fine. Hold use a mark hue selection tool. Yeah, just delete this first. Control D. You can go back to your brush, go to your brush settings again. All this has been covered previously. Yeah, and just you know re uh, how do I say, I'm recalling back. Yeah, so in here you can use the scattering tool, right? you can scatter this brush so that it's multiple brushes when you paint as such. You can decrease the counts. Yeah, you can also make it to dual brush. You can have a different brush if you want to. You can hit on transfer as well. So transfer is where it's going to give you different opacity, and now you can close this brush setting and you can start painting. Right, so with a lesser opacity, so say 50%, okay, 5 on your keyboard. Now you've got the layers for the back here. Again, another one more layer, another one more layer. You've got 2 different types of depth. Okay, you can hit 20% and you can have a little pine mountain at the back, just to give you an indication it is a depth. Right, you can even hit on a dark colors. Yeah, hit on 0 and you go like couple, done. Right, so what happens is it creates a little depth, and this is where you can come in and go like, oh, okay, cool, this is foresty, maybe perhaps I want to have it some sort of a different design. You can have silhouettes and make a brush. Right, in that case I'm just going to leave it as it is. Then I'm going to just write in here with a text, tap once, make it slightly bigger, maybe 72, so it's a little bigger. Maybe you can type in further 150, so a lot more bigger, or 200. Yeah, and just type in, say, synergy, something like this. Okay, bring it in, and you can even make this into something else and be as creative as you want. You can even have a splash, you can even have some sort of a coffee below here, escapism or something like that. You can even give a tagline, synergy some, a land of escapism, something like that. You can type in more text within this, and this time you can reduce the size or scale of this the write-up. So here, scale with nature. Okay, and you can highlight the entire text here. Look for different types of font. Yeah, say something like this, something thinner, right? And you can go into the text or the properties of the characters. You can have it a little bit more how do I say, what we call this, tracking. You can add some tracking so it fits the text, something like this. Okay, and do not forget to save it, Control S, yeah, Command S. Now when you look at this, the package is now well defined. Okay, so it can be a simple addition, and if you want to make it even more cooler, perhaps you want to have a background to be changed or a different color to be overlaid over this, then you can just go in here on your layer tool. You can even have a solid color, bam, and change this color to something else, maybe a little bit more funky, something bluish. Say OK and hit a simple deepen, some sort like that. Bam. Okay. Maybe you want to have more, and you can just off this lock button here. Use W. Okay. Select all the white areas. Yeah. And create another solid layer. Right. Bam. One. Another one more. For a mask. Yeah. You do not touch the blackened areas, and this time around you want to have a different color, you can go in, hit a gradient color sort of. Okay, just to create this nice cool looking feel, I'd say okay, drag this and drop it in here. Yes, right. If you want it to be erased, of course you can go into the mask and start using a brush, and this brush can be using a white color, so you can have it something like this, and you can even do wonders with this, yeah, by going into your brush settings again, and this time you go to brush tip shape. Instead of going sideways, you rotate it the opposite, so it does the reflection, and you go reflections as such, maybe about 30% or 40%, and there you go, you've got some cool looking image around, right? So again, this one is completely in your hands. Okay, how do you want to do this masking and so, or maybe you want to change something else, you want to have more cool components, like for instance you want to have like a, I know, like a brush of blunt as such, see that, you can do that as well, make it something bigger and give it a little bit of bottom, right? So end of the day, it's about how do you want to make your packaging cool, right? And you can have all kind of adjustments happening within this. You can even double click on the gradient and change the colors that suits best with your image. Okay, something like this. Maybe you want to change color, you can go ahead and change colors to blue, sky colors, you know, change this to something darker. Yeah, maybe this is completely blue, dark blue, something like that. Now you've got your package, right? Of course, you've got other options, blending options on this image here. You can come in, you can even go with different blending options that you want to work with as well. Yeah, so if you want to have it with little luminosity, yeah, you can have some little luminosity, you can have some differences, you can also do an overlay. In our case, you can't do overlay because it is overlaying on white. Okay, so again, this completely depends on how do you want to blend your image within that given product that you want to work with, right? So in my case, I'm just going to hit it as normal, and this is how it is. Okay, so it is very simple, very straightforward, and a simpler manner for you to work with. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a can or tin. Okay, and I will share it with you guys. Right, I do see a question here by Technique. Yeah, how do I insert a coffee picture again? All right, so how do I do that again is, just to repeat, yeah, first go in, look for the rectangle tool. Yeah, if you don't see this rectangle tool or square here, right, click on this three tiny buttons icon here, hold on it with it hold on with your left mouse button, and you'll see a drop down menu of the other tools here. I just look for the rectangle tool. If it's here, normally it will be here by default. Yeah, so see below this arrow here, yeah, there's a rectangle tool. U is for rectangle tool. Now just create a scale here, a scaled rectangle tool as such. Yeah, you can change colors. Yeah, once you have already done this, you can fill in colors with something else, maybe black, maybe gray, whichever color that you prefer, right? Reduce the opacity, right, just to see through and convert it to smart object before you do any sort of warping. Okay, smart object, right click on the layer, convert it to smart object. Okay, you have to do that, right? So the icon changes here on the thumbnail, and then you can hit Ctrl T, yeah, and this time around right click warp, right? When the warp tool is selected, you've got the options for the warp. So here warp, you've got custom. So if you see here a drop down menu, you've got the arch, you've got an arch here, an arc. So arc will be like this. You can warp it as an arc, but in our case we can't do this. Yeah, so change the different type of arc. The arch and arc is two different things, right? The arch is to it will hold the borders. The arc is what will give a complete distortion on the overall image by itself. Okay, so I'm looking at the arch. Yeah, so once you have an arch, all you have to do is hold on to the middle square button here, just scale it, place it where you need to be placed, some sort of like following the the direction um, of the pin, yeah, and then press enter, or you can press on this OK just to confirm it. You can drag it first, sorry, you can drag this image here, yeah, Ctrl T. This time you can even do a warp. You can drag this warp, or you can even right click, you can scale it, yeah, you can scale this by holding shift and scaling it to kind of like scale everywhere, yeah, and right click warp it, and this time you can move it across. Okay, and if you need more warps, right, and this is where you go into custom and you can adjust it accordingly. Okay, so this one I've already explained. So just to make sure everything is not distorted, and all you have to do next is press OK. I didn't do a proper warp here, and this one press OK, yeah, enter, right, and then double click on the smart object where it will open in a new window, right? And now you can just chuck in any images as what I've just shown previously. Just chuck in any image and kapoosh, the magic is done for once, right? This will give you the better opportunity for you to be more creative. You can play around with your design and you can have fun with it. Yes, yes, okay, clear. So very simple, very straightforward, right? So once you're happy with this, let's just close this and I will delete this dude. Okay, kaboom, kaboom, done, save. Right, so this is one part. I'm going to just group this and hide this first. I'm going to drag in the box. Okay, I'm going to drag in the box, press OK, and say this is the photos given by someone, yeah, someone who's going to work with this, and then say, oh, okay, I want to wrap this, I want to attach a sticker, I want to see it before, I want to see your design, how is it going to be packaged, how is it going to look like in the package. Like okay, can you show me a sample? And you go like, okay, fine, I'll do a quick sampling. I'm going to throw in the image, I'm going to place it conventional way. How do you do that is by holding or dragging in the image. You're going to do this by click and you're going to do distort, like okay, I'm going to distort. This kind of like works, right? It's not bad, it is there, it is still giving you the what they call giving you the the look and feel of how it's going to be attached. It does work, right? I'm going to drag in another image. I'm going to go in, I'm going to place this here. I'm going to do another distort one, just pin the corners where it's supposed to be pinned. Ta-da! And voila, you're done, right? So what happens here? One is you kind of like lose, or you kind of like you are making an estimation of how it's going to look, right? So in this case, what happens is the volume and the the distortion kind of like disrupts, or disrupts the image's solidity. All right, so that's where the packaging or the stickers goes completely disorientated, and it's kind of like broken, right? So in order for us to kind of like not have this kind of issues, right, normally what we can do is we can go in here, right? We can go to Windows, no sorry, filter. By right we should have a vanishing point, right? If that's not happening, what you can do is, first and foremost, you can right click on this layer, because at the moment it is not been converted properly. So what you can do is you can rasterize the layer first, then go to filters, and you see the option of vanishing point, right? The moment you hit on vanishing point, what happens here? You can draw the borders as how it's supposed to be. Okay, you can reduce the grid size or increase the grid size, okay, by coming in here and changing the grid size. You can make it slightly bigger, smaller, depending how big is your how comfortable are you with your views. Yeah, and then what you can do is hold control and drag this image accordingly and place it where it's supposed to be placed, something like this. Okay, again, it may not be perfect, but it is there for it to read the space. All right, and if you need more, by holding control, you can drag this image right here. Okay, you can zoom out for a bit, about 12%. Tap on this and drag the point here. Oops. So here it kind of like distorted, but that's fine. We can always distort this later. Okay. So again, this may not be perfect, but it is there. Okay. So you can always make it slightly smaller. You can adjust it accordingly. Yeah. Of course, when you do the first round, it is better to do this. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, by holding shift or something like that. Right. So that's how you kind of like adjust the placement of the grid. Yeah. So once you're happy with this, what you can do now is you can copy the image, or copy any sort of image. Since you're happy with this, you're okay. Okay. Now when you click, or you go back to your filter again, vanishing point, yeah, the grid is all set here. Okay, so what happens is the vanishing point is to give you an indication of how the perspective is going to be, right? So if you need more images within this, all you have to do is drag the image first to, or before you do anything, just cancel it first, so the information is attached. Now you can go in, drag the copy image, or you can have okay, let's see the packaging. Again, I'm just going to drag this here. I'm going to off the lock button, yeah, or I'm going to go into any web page and just right click on the image and copy it. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, do a selection first. Whoop, I'm going to copy this and then come in here, go to vanishing point, and I'm going to just paste it. Okay, so the moment you paste this, remember this, we have done this before. Now if I were to just paste it somewhere here, okay, and then I'm going to do Control key, I can increase this key here. So what happens is it will wrap within the box that is supposed to be wrapped. Am I making sense? Yeah, right. So this is how you do the design for it. Okay, say you're okay. Now you will see it is nicely wrapped. Of course this is not perfect. Yeah, I just showed you the technique alone, and you can go in and you can change the image to multiply by going into filters, again vanishing point. You can tap on the image. Once the image is selected, oops, there's the image. Okay, you go in here, you can do it as a layer or just show it as a layer and so on and so forth. Yeah, you can move this image. Once you have already pasted, this is how it's going to go in here, right? So once you're okay with this, you can drag another image of the box, you can drop it down. Yeah, and now you can just hit on overlay, or you can do a multiply and so on and so forth. Am I making sense? Yeah, something like this. And again, there's varieties of techniques. You can come in here, you can start erasing the areas that needs to be erased, 0, X, and you can start erasing the image, something like this. Okay, so the idea here is to ensure that there's to show you guys there is varieties of options. Okay, the design of the package and how you want to do with this, or how do you want to deal with this images and such, right? So this will help you kind of to create something that is cool, right? And you can package and wrap it around the boxes as well as the images. And as you can see, if you want to wrap it properly, it's kind of like in making sense because it follows the shape of the actual box by itself. So it kind of like wraps it nicely, right? So this is how you deal with the warping tool, right? Any questions so far? Hello? Okay, pretty straightforward, right? So yep, this is one way of doing or dealing with warp tools if you're going to do with package. And of course all these images that you're seeing here is just a sample. You have to do your own convention and so on, right? So some tutorials will be shared later and you can have a look at it how to work, right? I'm just going to say no for this, and I'm just going to close this, and I'm just going to save this for you guys. Okay, so warp tool is practically to refresh yourself, what you have learned previously, and this is another additions of how do you want to manipulate your images and give it a nice nice good looking result in the future with simple photos that is passed on to you guys. Okay, going back, if there is no questions, going back to the movie poster. Okay, movie poster we have already mentioned. I've already mentioned, or I've already shown you guys of how to start off with a movie poster with a block out. This has not been cleaned up yet, right? As how it was previously. Okay, The only difference now is if I were to make it a little bit more animated, something like this. Okay, see this? Okay, I'm just going to go in here. Okay, it will take a little time for it to render. You have to make sure you delete others. Can you see? There is a transition of the light. This is very simple, very subtle. Boom. A shift of light and hue. Okay, so this is something that you can play with. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, so this is what we call as timeline that I have already shown you guys in the previous classes. Okay, how do you want to deal with this is very simple. Yeah, in timeline you have the style, you've got the text warp tool, you've got the transform that you can animate, which means you can time it, and then you can do a little bit of fade in fade out like what I'm showing you guys now. Okay, in here what I did was I've deleted the previous folders that I had. Yeah, so any folders, anything that is within this folder, like for instance under this blockout, the same file that I gave you guys last week. Yeah, under this blockout here, if you have multiple folders, what happens is in your timeline it will not show you individual folders, but it will, individual layers within that folder. You have to drag it out. It's very simple. Hold on to the layers, just drag and drop with your left mouse button, so it comes out of it. Okay, so that's how you can work with the timeline. Let me show you a quick sample of how to deal with timeline. Okay, in order for you to do something like this, what you can do is after you finish all this breakdowns and so, what I did was I'm just going to close this. Yeah, say okay, I'll just save this. Okay. Do this, guys. Yeah, every time when you have timeline, when you're finished, yeah, please make sure that you go to edit, purge all. Okay, purge all means it will take away all your cache files. All right, if you have too much of cache files, what happens is your laptop will not have enough space. Clear? Any Adobe software, Illustrator you may not have because it's very vector based, or Photoshop and any other Adobe softwares, and so you have to do cleanup like how you do something. When you purge all, you will reduce you will lose the what they call the backups and so on. Yeah, you will lose the cache files, which just now when you want to play, it would not play, it will start to re-render back again. All right, that's all you will lose, but do not worry, your file is safe. When you purge all, kaboom, say okay, the next round it becomes a lot more lighter, your system becomes lighter, right? And then you just have to save it. Okay, so that's what you want. Okay, say for instance, if you were to do some sort of an adjustment over this, okay, and you want to have like a little light that is coming in and so, or you want to have it glowing in between, all you have to do is make sure it is not in a group. As you can see, if I create a timeline now, kaboom, you see the group becomes just a group. So even if you open this under the timeline here, okay, what happens is you still see this, but it will have multiple layers. Okay, so that's what it does. It is still there, like sometimes it's hard to see, so you can still kind of like hide it in this manner. It kind of like saves you, and it clumps it together. Yeah, so yeah, it's up to you. So you can group it or you can ungroup it, all right, depending on the amount of workspace that you have. All right, so in here, if let's say I were to add a little bit of gradient, I want to change this gradient to something else. Just going to focus on this here. So if you want to change this gradient to a different gradient, all you have to do is say drag this needle, timeline needle here straight to say 20 seconds. I'm not going to do a proper timing, it's just to demo, yeah, how it's going to work. A little bit of timeline. Okay, in here what I can do is I'm going to go in and do a cut. So what it does is it splits both of this image. I'm going to just do an offset of this gradient, kind of like, you know, bleeds in. And for this second copy, I'm just going to double click on this. I'm going to change it to something like that. Okay, and say OK. So what happens is, as you can see, this will be a complete different shift, right? So you can see, boop, it's shifting. So this is sometimes it works for movies and all that, but if you want to have a smooth transition from one color to another, all right, all you have to do is, you can see this rectangle here, half white, and you know, one is filled and one is just a stroke. Hold on to it with the left mouse button or just tap on it. You've got the fade here. Okay, so what you can do is you can drag this and drop it on the gradient tool here. Okay, and drag this tiny little mountain or triangle here closer, so it kind of like fades in quickly. So if I play now, you can see, hold, just tap on your spacebar, this will happen. Right, simple options and simple manner of doing the effect. Okay, so once you have this, so perhaps if you want to have more, you can go into the you know, the text tool. If it is in this layer, then you can do the animation of it, right, as such. Like, let's say I'm just going to double click on this smart object, create a timeline. You can even make a timeline for this, right? So how do you do that is, say for instance, you want to have it this escape with nature, yeah. I'm going to drop down this menu here. I'm going to hit text warp, then come in for 20 seconds. Maybe I can have it, nah, it's not going to work. Text warp is I'm going to hit warp. Sorry, can do a little bit of bulge. And you can see, so this is what you call as text swap. Okay, say for instance the synergy storm to be a little bit more bigger, right? Again, Control key, Command T, right? Hit on this arch here, the arc here. Use a different, or right click and then do a warp. Yeah, you can have it a little rise, or you can even have it like a bulge. Okay, and this bulge can be adjusted, something like that. Enter, or press OK. Now let's see. And for this, Control T. Oh, sorry. I did not have the text swap, you know, added in. So I just have to do a text swap like that. And perhaps for this text swap, Control T. So you have to do keyframes. You hit on this stopwatch here. So when you have a stopwatch and you see this tightly, you know, simple diamond, that means it is keyed in. timeline is keyed in, right click, warp, and this time you can make it slightly smaller like that. Enter. Okay, so right, and if you want it to be going back to the origin, Control T, right click, pop, and this time around make it slightly smaller, and press enter. Okay, let it render. You see this green light here or line here, that indicates it is rendering. Let's say boom. Simple. Okay, and then Control S, it saves, right? It saves within the file. So if you're going to play here, you can see there is a animation playing on this poster, on this video here that you have created. You have to wait for it, let it render until it becomes the green, fully green. See where it stops. You just want to check up to frame 10. Let it render for a bit. Want to see some gradient change, and CinemaGraph is done. So the same technique that you can use for your poster as well as for this kind of warping image that you want to show, or to your clients if you have any sort of clients in the future. Okay, I'm going to go with 20 frames because in the image inside it's kind of like animated in that distance. Now I'm just going to go in. Once it's render, it's faster. Done. Okay, so simple animation, and let it play. Okay, you bring the timeline really closer to 20. Now you play. Bloop, 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 and done. Okay, so that's it folks for today. Is there any questions? The timeline may be a little bit more, but you have to try to practice it. Yeah, you've got options here. Again, timeline, you can make it as a folder. Yeah, you can go in, make a folder and collect all your layers within that layer. For instance, you want to have it for the foreground, midground, background, and so you can do that as well, or depending how you want to arrange your your files and your your working file, so it's easier for your access and so. Yeah, so under here you've got options. If you drop down the menu here, once you've got the transform, which is how big you want to scale, how much your warp you want to add on, you can do all that. Please play around with it. Yeah, I've got the opacity, which means you have to look at the opacity inside your layer. All right, and then you've got the style, which means you can go into a filter. You've got different styles here. Yeah, or you can just double click on it. Yeah, you've got all these styles here, layer style. Yeah, you can have the basic style, what kind of different styles that you want to have in, or attach. You can attach this. Okay, so play around with this timeline, see what you can come out with your results. Yeah, and if it's not perfect, that's fine. Yeah, but at least you know how to work with this. Okay, so this is how we do a little warping, as well as how to play with the timeline. Right, so that's it folks for today. Anyone, any questions? All right, so thank you then. I will see you guys next week. Thank you, Miss Anita. Bye bye. Have a good
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
bye bye.